It's doing all right. That part's live. Let me go into here, get my link. Get my link. Shut up. Be quiet. Go back to the live. Where's my live? Give me my live. No, you're not there yet. There we go. Got that.
In the camera.
There we are. That's good. That's good. Let's do that. Subscriber. Go live. Publish stream. There we are. Give me 2 seconds, everybody. That should be going. That's up. Let's just make sure this guy's manually start, manually end, save changes. Start that guy. All right, let me get into this thing so I could do the music. All right, let me get our music up here. Yay, we're live and we're doing our thing. Rock and roll. I got my ears loud. Welcome to the Everyday Sniper. You got Frank at Snipers Hide, and I'm here with Chris on our Wednesday night get together. Chris is actually out of state. What's going on, man?
Dude, just plugging along and getting ready we've got a clinic coming up on Saturday, and then Burris Optics team challenge, and then a hunter match. And then I'm gonna try to get to a PRS match and then get all the information out.
Whoa.
Just seems wild and crazy.
Yeah,
So
the
much to do.
training season definitely kicked in. Hey, so I did the video the other day, like that picture, the
Hmm.
one with me kind of what I was saying is like in that picture of me with the tripod, because I'm gonna change this
Hmm.
really quick to show you. But in that picture of me with the tripod, what I was doing was I was showing those guys you don't have to be wrapped into the tripod. But
Right,
one of the unintended positive consequences out of that just single image, it got like almost 15,000 views in just a couple days. But everybody thinks I look like the dad in the Boondock Saints, the El Duce.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, but see, like my glasses are all messed up, but I got these for the range so I could try to get close. These are like the closest ones I have. So I could do my Boondock
Oh,
Saint
yeah.
thing.
We
So
gotta do a video that'll be
yeah,
freaking
I
awesome.
need my trench coat. I'm all wrapped in my wire. But yeah, I would need my
Just
trench.
pull the tripod out of your trench coat.
Yes, pull it out of the trench coat, pull my rifle out of the other side of the trench coat. And the bitch is back in the day, I actually had trench coats. And like now I don't have any trench coats anywhere, I don't think, not black or anything. But yeah, so I was going to do this whole Boondock Saint thing because everybody says my beard makes me look like I think it's Billy, I can't think of the comedian's name. It's like Billy something is the dude who plays the dad. What's up? We got a
Well,
bunch
we'll
of people
definitely have
on.
to take care of that. Yeah, I can't see chat, so you're gonna have
Yeah.
to.
What's up? What's up?
Is HK guy on? That's the question.
Yeah, it totally smells weird in here. Yeah, well, but that's the whole thing. Like, so I'll do the whole Boondock Saint. I'll do the whole thing. But you know what the bitch is like the glasses I can actually see with. They're the carbon fiber separated, and like right here, like I don't know if you could see it. It's like separated, like right there, and now they sit funky in my head, and I hate it. It drives me nuts. Like one side droops, and the other side acts all crazy. But we had a great weekend of class in Iowa. I mean, it was next level fantastic. I have to say. Um,
All right, well, let's hear about it. Like
yeah.
when you and Mark have a good polished program, did did it follow that pattern and just go flawlessly, or did you guys start adjusting as you went?
The only thing that's been adjusted from a technical standpoint is your wind, because, and I'll get to that in a sec, because we needed it. We had 12 plus all weekend, so you can't get hits on steel unless you explain wind to people. But what it was is, I mean, we had a good group of guy. We had somebody that dropped out immediately. That kind of So there was supposed to be 10. We ended up with 9. Somebody got sick or something. A family member got sick, but then like just out of the gate, we looked out because this is John's range, sure shot range in Iowa. So real nice conditions. Other than like I said, the wind was nuts, and luckily because when Laura and I packed up, we have that fat boy tripod that I use as a bench and I work on all the rifles because it's so big.
Hmm.
Um, and so she's like, it's because it's in the dining room there because I was working on the rifles, so it was sitting right there when we were packing. And so she's like, I'm bringing the fat boy. I'm shooting off my fat boy. I'm like, all right, cool. Bring the fat boy. We got room. And I get there. Well, there was actually two people. The one guy who couldn't make it, but there was a second guy who couldn't make it. And he replaced himself because we don't do refunds on the class, because once you're signed, it's a concert. We're putting the concert on. And so he replaced his spot with someone he knew, which was this guy, Tony. Tony borrowed a gun. The guy gave Tony a scar.
For a
And
precision rifle class, that's
yeah,
awesome.
and wait, it gets even better. It was a 20-inch scar cut to 18. So I'm like, okay. Well, then, like everybody comes to the class in the beginning, we're signing up. There is no way on the planet that guy can go prone. It's just a fact. I'm not going to make him go prone. And throughout the weekend, he even said, talking to him, super nice guy, he's uncomfortable prone. The only couple few times he's tried it, he can't do it. So as soon as I saw him, I just went up to him and I said, "Hey, man, I'm going to put you on this tripod because the beginning, we have the fundamental eval, right? So the first, like you sit down, you get a safety brief, fundamental eval, let's go outside." And I said, "Hey, dude, you're going to get this tripod. I'll take care of you." I told him very little. In fact, I said almost nothing to him other than, "You're shooting a semi. I want to see you work trigger reset." Now he shoots handgun and he shoots carbine. He works in a gun shop, so he knows trigger reset to a certain degree. Now, did he execute trigger reset all weekend? No. But I didn't want him influencing the tripod, like hanging on it. So I basically just, he was sideways, he was all the rules, but he wasn't going to influence the rifle negatively because I was just, the semi-auto is going to take care of some recoil. That tripod is a 40 plus millimeter. It's big and heavy enough and solid enough. So I'm like, give me trigger control, dude. His fundamental eval group right out of the gate was like a minute and a quarter, minute and a half, right in there. But he was in my shooting C, so centered up. Give him a minute and a quarter, and I'm like, I got it. I'm not changing nothing. Just leave it alone. He was like on Saturday. He was not the least, but he was like the least drama guy. Never shot more than like 3 rounds to hit the plate, even in the wind, all the way out to 1,000 yards. I mean, he had an audience and he was getting golf claps because it was like, here's a dude, no experience.
It's like, hey man, I'm gonna feed you some info, you execute, and let's go. And like on that third shot at 1,000 yards and like 12-mile-an-hour winds, he impacted. And then once he impacted, he stayed on. It was like we doped an 18-inch scar out to 1,000 yards with zero drama, like
Man,
zero.
that's awesome. That's so
it was
cool.
it was so fun. Um, it was it was a good class. We had good shooters in there. We had everybody got along, and part of it is what you've seen. It's that Mark does the meet and greet. We hang out with the students. We don't click off. So everybody hangs together for, lunch and dinner, and then we have the bar the first night when we meet everybody and shake hands and say hi. And everybody just supports each other and it helps, man. It's a good time and it's a good class. It's fun.
That is cool. Man, what a testament to somebody who's able to truly listen. And you have I mean, I'm sure there's people on the comments like, oh my God, the scar is great and it's accurate, but it's not a bolt gun for long range shooting. And
No.
it, and so, but you take somebody, who understands because they shoot pistols, but they understand I got to listen very carefully and do what they're saying. And that passes all of the fancy equipment that everybody else had or probably had in performance because the shooter listened. And then it shows that, like, yeah, the equipment matters to a certain extent, but the shooter's ability to apply the fundamentals in the appropriate order is going to make a bigger difference.
Yeah. And Saturday night he came up to me after it was over at dinner and he's like, "Hey man, was that all the gun?" And I'm like, "No, you still have to press the trigger and you still can move it around and that's not all the gun." Cuz he was
Was that all
excited.
the guns? You're like,
Yeah.
dude, that gun's not meant for this.
Right? Is that all the gun? And it's like, "No, it's not. It's you, man. Don't sweat it." And the funny thing is like mid-morning, he had a break, a self-timing break, and his shots started to go a little wango. And we're like, "Uh-oh, what happened?" I mean, don't get me wrong, the winds came up again and they changed direction. They were opposite direction. We were able to cut the wind. We were doped for 6 miles an hour on Saturday, but on Sunday we were between 6 and 9 on Saturday. I think I doped them for 9 in that video I showed you, but 6 in the morning, 9 in the afternoon with the angle. And then on um on Sunday it was closer to 10 to 12 cuz it was more of a full value. But his brake loosened up and he started going wango and he got nervous for a minute. I took him to the side, I re-zeroed him, I did him. I'm like, "No, dude, this you're fine." I said, "The brake got loose, it threw the rounds around." I said, "You're no problem." And I took him in a little short, grouped him, got his confidence back, and then let him run again, and he was good. You know what I mean? But that brake loosening up shook his confidence a little bit come mid morning because he was hitting so well on Saturday. And then you come Sunday and it started to go nuts. And it's like, dude, did you, drink today or what did you do? And come to find out it was his break.
Yeah. And that stuff happens. I mean, that's kind of an unfortunate part of a lot of shooting is if you can catch it early, the equipment thing you take care of, but and like, okay, check the suppressor, check all these parts, and check your rings. I mean, we've had students come and their rings aren't even tight yet. So
Mm
they're like, my zero's not right. And that takes a while to figure out because it's not what you would expect to check first. Um, I think that's funny. And well, so I told you that this morning I got a lot of stuff done and I've got a couple articles going, but one of them I'd written down before this story, but it's like perfect. Like stuff always goes. It's called Yes, It Matters, but.
hmm. But,
And then and then the other title is There's a time and a place for everything. Um, but it has to be the time and place. And
Yes.
it's basically like the conversation of, does your SD matter? Sure. Around zero point 0.9 seconds time of flight, or if the SD is like 50, maybe it matters before that. But yeah, SD matters. The group size, yeah, it matters, but relative to the target that you're shooting, does velocity? Yes. How about fundamentals? How about weight? How about everything? Like, yeah, you could argue that everything matters. And in that context, everything matters. But what are you doing? What are you using it for? Where are your other skills? There's gonna always be a shift of what matters first.
Yes. An order of things.
Yeah. So if you're like,
Mhm.
oh, I do running guns. Okay, this is a more logical sequence of what matters most. Oh, I do ELR. Okay, this is gonna matter more. I do NRL. This is gonna matter more. Huh, this is gonna matter more. And it's not all the same thing, but when you get online and you look, the problem is it's kind of like an echo chamber. If you say, does SD matter in hunting? You're going to find a thread somewhere that says yes, and everybody says yes, and they
Mhm.
all have their low SDs, but they don't
Well, it's
mention
going to be
anything
the one
else.
guy who's in Idaho who does long range hunting from canyon across the canyon and shoots him at 500. He's going to say yes.
hmm
You know,
or do I need the heaviest bullet? Maybe, maybe not. Like, and so, but that sucks when people ask you questions and you're like, yeah, I guess like it probably matters, but it kind of depends because you know if we're talking to somebody in England and they deer hunt, they shoot them in the head. So do we need it to expand in the heart and cause the most tissue damage? No, you're literally shooting them in the fucking head.
yeah.
Like you have to be able to hit a small target quickly and range it off of like bullshit, like squishy ground and probably too much rain. And so that hunting is different than hunting an elk or a moose or in Africa. It, the context makes a huge difference. It does the SD matter? If you're hunting it at 50 yards, like no, it doesn't matter. 100 yards, 200 yards, no, it doesn't matter. Um, but when you isolate it, of course it matters. They're like, yeah, but look at this. It makes a tenth of a difference. Or here's statistics. Or they open up a Brian Litz book, and it's like,
Yeah,
well, look at
yeah.
this distribution, and it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, but back
Yeah,
it
the
into the
Wes,
zone
the
that you're
Wes
shooting.
says,
Yeah,
the Wes is telling
yeah.
me, you know,
Yeah,
Mr. Wes.
and then it's
Well,
like, yeah, but the Wes, what it should say is, if you fucking miss this, you shouldn't own a gun because you're shooting it at 100 yards, and the target's this big, and so yeah, I started to outline. Yes, it matters, but I'm trying to get some common basic things so that it's not like a million things, but SD, rifle weight, uh,
well, I mean, your
specific
support
fundamentals like
wobble, right? There's all these
right.
things. I mean, just I was looking through videos because I've been grabbing like a bunch of old online videos. I got my goatee still, and a lot of times it's still black. Um, I've been putting them up, just an old video, I throw it up. So I was there today looking at some videos this morning, and one of them that came up was an older one with it was some prime ammo, but it was 6.5 Creed with a 140 and then the 6.5 Creed with the 130. And everybody's heavier is better and all this, but the muzzle velocity was just shy of 2700 with the 140 and it was like 2850 with the 130. And so I did the 1125-yard target in the video, and the 130 beats it in every category from drop to drift, right? But everybody's going to tell you to shoot a 140. And we've gone over that. You've done it with the 100 grain versus the 153. We've seen these things that historically should work in your favor. A heavier bullet's going to carry better. But when we drop the velocity so low, like a lot of things have done, it doesn't carry when you can grab that light, fast varmint round that screams. And even though the SDs and the numbers might not look great on paper, the BC's lower. And yet it hammers and it hits and it works, you know?
Right. And BC does include considering velocity. And I think some of these things are going so fast that the calculators aren't quite catching up to
Well, but
like the
that's the
100 grainer
Brian
going
Litz thing.
3,300. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the Brian Litz effect because Litz says G7 doesn't bleed off like it really does. So he tries to tell you that the G7 number sustains and it's spin that sustains. BC bleeds off because it's velocity dependent, like you said. So they
Mhm.
kind of lie to you with the G7, telling you, oh no, that number's not going to fall apart. It's better. They give you all these. They have all these phantom myths of why they want G7 to be better when none of them are true, and so that's what happens. Is they were told that BC won't fall off, but we know it does.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it does. And not only, I mean, a lighter bullet's going to slow down faster, but it's going to have a higher BC than you think at first. And if it gets there in a fraction of a second, I mean, you
Mhm.
just can't argue with the elevation. And in that elevation, because the BC's also considering wind drift, when we did the test with the 156 versus the 100 beat the 156, and it wasn't a slow, I mean, it was slow because it was 156, but to 900 yards, that's where it matched. And you think, man, 900 yards is pretty far
Mhm.
for a 56 grain differential of factory ammo. The wind was better for the 100 grain inside of that. So how many times are you going to be shooting out, 900 or more?
And need
Shoot,
that
like
156 weight over the 100 going screaming fast.
right, right. And it's going fast, but that recoil impulse is almost nothing. You can feel a 156 more than you can feel that 100 grainer just go for it.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, the lighter, faster, and that in the NRL Hunter in particular, people realize that the technology in the 25 caliber bullets, the BC got better. They made them longer. They're a little bit smaller. They made them a little bit longer. The BC's better. They could shoot them faster. They're getting power factor, and a lot of competitors switch to 25 Creedmoor because they're smaller
Yeah, they were
and
able
going
to.
faster.
They're in between 6 mil and 6.5, so they fell in
Mhm.
between the two of them. The 6 mil's too light. You don't make your power factor. To get the 6.5 to work, you got to go light again. No more power factor. You do the 25. Now you're balancing that speed and your power factor back in. And yes, the 25 is a good balance, especially for a touch. And once
Yeah,
these
so you get a
guys,
light bullet going
mm-hmm,
fast with a better BC for the weight, and all of a
mm-hmm,
sudden, all those components make it outperform. Now, is it better for hunting? Like, yeah, probably not, because you could make the other things. It just doesn't qualify under the rules. So it's a game
right.
thing, but it is still kind of thinking along the lines of optimizing a bullet, and that's recognizing lighter, faster is good, but they also want BC. So then the BC factors in. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Um,
He's saying, yeah,
and that
no,
gets
well,
into that.
one of the guys is saying they haven't seen anybody use the 100 in factory class. And it's not very few people know it was out there. We were even going in for the 123 at first, and then you stumbled on the 100. So I don't think it's very common. And like Chris is saying here on the screen, if you look at the numbers, Chris, they're awful on paper. And so that's why a lot of them don't work. But when you shoot them, they shoot really, really good. And
Right.
that speed takes up. So it's a newer round, and yeah, and it's that power factor. You
And I think
work
the BC's 224. I'm gonna take a factory gun and shoot that. It's just got to shoot it first. But if you look at and this is my hypothesis here, so it's just my
to go.
my
Well,
opinion
somebody's
looking at it. But
there. You can
um,
answer this stuff too when you look at it. You because you
don't
could
you
talk
have
to.
to stand on the, yes, you do. But so here's the thing, like the asterisk with another asterisk is, in our NRL Hunter, you can't have a bullet weight under 130 without breaking the rules, except for a factory rifle. So you can shoot factory ammo and not be required to meet power factor. But you have to have a 130 bullet. So you could load a 130 bullet slower, not make power factor. I mean, not load it if it's factory ammo.
Yeah, which there's a ton of 130s.
But if you have a factory rifle, you can shoot any weight bullet if it's factory ammo, which qualifies the 100 grainer, except there's a 3250 speed limit. And in a lot of rifles, it's
Yes.
faster than 3250.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Laura's
think
rifle, her terminus, she was 3280, I think, or 3260.
it's fast. And so if you have a rifle and it breaks the speed limit, you can't use it. If you don't, you can use it, but there aren't that many people competitive with factory rifles and shooting factory ammo because the SD of the factory stuff is stupid. But in those distances, it makes no flipping difference.
Yeah, well, and think about in our remember when we shot Cameo the match, and the tall guy, I can't think of his name, the three gunner, he was at 3180 in the morning when he showed up. We got to 11 o'clock, and one of the ROs threw the Garmin behind him, and he went over 32 on two of his rounds, and they DQ'd
It
him
was
at
like
that point.
3201.
Oh
Yeah.
one. He was
Yeah.
3201 and he got busted with 2 rounds being over, and his score didn't count after that cuz he was like in the morning when he came, he was 3180. And he's like, "I'm 3180. I'm right at the edge." And by noon, he had crept up to go over 3200 feet per second and got nailed.
hmm So this is a really good segue for me, but before we leave the NRL Hunter, if there's other questions, but my suspicion is that people read the rules and they say, I can't shoot anything under 130 for bullet weight. Then they say, well, I can shoot factory ammo and I don't have to meet power factor, but you still have to have the 130 grain. And the one exception in those lists, or if it's a factory rifle, you can shoot a 100 grain bullet or a 123 grain bullet if it's factory ammo, in which case the Hornady factory ammo, despite the fact that it's got like, makes you want to throw up a little bit, terrible ES, it doesn't matter in those ranges.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
we
that
we
time of
we shot
flight.
a
If
5 shot group. Yeah, the 5 shot group at 900 was 5 inches. Like
Mhm.
it had an ES of 27 or something, or not ES, SD of 27. It had like a basically 100 feet per second
Yeah.
extreme spread.
Yeah, and it still hammers, man. And like some of the rifles it shoots really well in, and then some of them the group is a little bit open, so you're kind of like, ah. But you were shooting what, the 153s and the 156 when you were doing the hunters, right? So you always stuck
Mhm.
to the heavier bullet for power factor.
And also, well, because on a tie, it's gonna come down to power factor. And when you go and get boxes of ammo that's available at Mile High, those were the ones that tended to shoot the best for whatever reason. For the most affordable price. I'm sure there's stuff, but you know, when it comes down to like $1.50 around for Hornady or $3 for burger, it's like, man, even
Yeah,
if
I'll
the
take the.
burger's better, I'm gonna buy the shit Hornady.
Well,
Like,
and we got a 6% excise tax here. We can't get around, so we're screwed, doubly screwed.
yeah, the tap 100 grain had a really good SD, but again, the SD doesn't matter inside of 900 for that ammo. So, um, yeah, I am planning on doing an NRL Hunter with the 100 grainer, um, because it's just so flippin' good. But so what you mentioned is this guy had ammo. He hand loaded it. He came here from out of state. He was 3180. It had a very tight SD, but he didn't consider that the temperature climb during the day was going to cause his velocity to increase beyond the boundary. And I think sitting here listening and talking, everybody's going to go, "Oh gosh, everybody should know that." But that was one of the things that stood out this year when I went up to Night Force. I was focused on last year. This is what I figured out. This worked, and I shot burger ammo. But
The
last
Night
minute,
Force ELR. Just you're talking the Night Force ELR last weekend.
uh-huh. So last year I'd never done it, and I went down, I wrote everything down in a book, and I started off really bad because I was, the Kestrel, I had to use it in a particular way. The angles I had to make sure I accounted for very specifically in increments that are much we just would never pay attention to them at 1,000 yards or in. So I thought, okay, I got this figured out. So Tuesday, I had two lots of burger, and I got a box of Copper Creek, which is factory. Um, and I shot him. And Copper Creek's SD was 9, the burger
Nice.
was 12, and then it was burger and Hornady, and then the Hornady was like 17 or something. So I said, oh fuck that. But because the Copper Creek had 9, I thought, I'm just gonna pick whichever one. The groups were fine, so it wasn't a group size thing. I was like, look, I'm just gonna go with the smaller SD. This is what's interesting though. When the match started, I was shooting fine. Um, Really, the first couple misses were that the published ranges aren't the actual ranges, which turned into a theme where squads ahead would be talking about the fact that like they publish ranges, but they're sometimes off by 100 yards, 150 yards. And you're like, when you ask them, they say, well, you got to range it. Okay. Um, but it was hard to range some of them. But why even put numbers up if they're not even remotely close? Who knows? But last year the temperature was pretty consistent. So I didn't have any data or problems with velocity increase or decrease. I had data points from Burger Ammo before because we had shot that out there, and I didn't notice huge changes. But Saturday, when we started, it was about 60 degrees. And by the end of the day, it was about 80. And my velocity went from 2790 to 2860.
That's big.
And I chronographed every shot. I got the chronograph here with me, and I've been writing it out. And I made a graph, and it tracks with the temperature. And that lines up with some of the data problems I was having. And I was adding velocity when I recognized it, and it would get hotter, and it would go up, and it would get hotter, and it would go up. But that's 70 feet per second over 20 degrees. So if you take the standard 1.5 feet per second per degree, it's a little bigger than that,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Yeah, that's a lot of that's a big swing for 20 degrees.
so I emailed them and I said, "Hey, I'm curious what powder you use because I'm noticing with the temperature, I'm getting a big shift in velocity." And they said, "Well, we don't share that information." Um,
What a tool, fucking Joel or Josh.
so I don't know the guy,
What?
so
Yeah, I do.
but they said, "Oh, we don't share our loading information, but you can look powder, look up standards are 1.5 degrees." I was like, dude, I know it's 1.5, but this is big. So I was curious, like maybe they're using something with nitro in it, like a N565 or whatever, something that's not necessarily heat
Probably.
stable.
Yeah, I don't know.
The burger afterwards, I shot a few rounds and it was maybe 20 feet per second different,
See,
not 70. But then I thought, well, I'd ask a few people and they said, well, you could have a carbon ring or you could have all sorts of stuff like fair enough. But I noticed this just increase through the day. The next morning, it was like 47 to 50, right back to the low velocity. And it stayed there. So day two, I didn't have those shifts. Um, but when it was happening, of course, that got my head all fucked and I started making mental mistakes. So it wasn't just the data, it was the fact that I couldn't figure it out on the clock and I was thinking it was something to do with something that I could calculate, not just look at the speeds. I did notice it was getting faster, but taking that into account caused frustration and caused me because being out of tune, you just don't think the
Yeah,
same
I
way
mean,
as if you're
that's the
doing it
problem with
regularly.
trying to do an ELR match last minute because, like, we knew, but then we were so distracted with 10 other things. And I didn't even realize it was this close because normally, like, Night Force ELR happens when I'm going to Alaska because that's like you would let AI in the door. So, I'm nowhere near my Alaska time normally,
Well,
but
yeah, and
yeah.
we were talking it, and I looked at my calendar and I was like, "Oh shit, it's next weekend!"
Yeah,
Like,
we had, and you had nothing,
fuck.
right?
Yeah, and I was like, man, last year I was like, I'm gonna get ready. I'm gonna have a couple of weeks, but I'm like, oh my god, it's in 5 days. Like, let's get our shit together. And I got those ammo, and I ordered the Copper Creek, and I tested the burger, and I was like, I'm gonna go with 9. We're good. I shot it to a mile, like the data track good, and I get there, and it's good, 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 miss, 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 like. And then I'm getting frustrated, and I start shooting the wrong targets first, and because I'm so obsessed about the speed and like, oh, I made some stupid mistakes that are on me, but I'm writing that up to show because all of the things that happened, they didn't happen last year, but they're new things that people should consider, like
Yeah.
taking the time to heat up your ammo or go out on days that are different temperature and put data points of speed for that temperature. But here's the thing that I haven't tested yet, but since we're talking, when I shot my zero at home, it was good. When it was colder and I took the zero, it was a tenth low, but a tenth low with a few number of shots, you don't know because the group probably covered 2/10 anyway.
Hmm.
I'm like, that's fine with me. A tenth I can adjust pretty easily. But at the end of day one, it was still 80 degrees, and I was 2/10 high and 1/10 left, and I shot 5 rounds because I was like, what? So I shot 3, and they were all 2/10 high and 1/10 left. So I dialed down 2/10, dialed right 1/10, got up, like waited a minute. I thought like, well, if it was me or something, I got back down and right through the center, just 1-2. Oh shit! In that 50, I mean, in that uh 70 feet per second speed bracket, there's a 3/10 variation and a tenth shift to left. So I don't hand load
And that's a
much,
minute.
but I did last year, or not last year, like 4 or 5 years ago. And sometimes, like with the BR, you could load up like 500 feet per second, and it's going to be like a 1 inch group no matter what. Um, but I did notice with the 6.5 Creedmoor, speeds would have some point of impact shift based on the velocity it was going, if it was enough. I didn't do any of that testing with a 300 PRC. I'm curious if the 2850, 2860 has a different point of aim, point of impact. Because if that's true, not only are you going to adjust for velocity differences, but you're also going to have to account for a zero shift that you'll have to take out of your data as that's happening. Um, so that's the first thing I want to test when I get back is, you know, put everything in a car for a half an hour at a temperature, take it out, shoot it, put it back in, turn the temperature up to 80, take it out, shoot it, cool it back off, shoot it, or put it in a cooler or something to see if there is any zero shift with those temperatures and the velocities.
Yeah,
If the gun is that temperature,
we need
yeah.
to move those plates to 1500, and then I have the Oler 89 from Buford Boone to set up so we can get numbers at 1500 with the computer.
Mhm.
So, we have everything. We just have to go and put it back into place. And I think we should take the two IPSCs or one of the IPSCs and maybe even that 1600-yard square or the 18, nah, the 18 maybe leave it, but the 16 square, put it at 15, put a IPSC at 16 or something, or one of the rectangles, something there, and then put that Oler setup at 1,500 yards, and then we can have some numbers at that distance to help, you know?
Yeah. But I do think it's an interesting hypothesis because not only was I fighting the velocity in the data shift, but if there was a zero shift that adds a few tenths, chasing both is going to be kind of maddening because if it's going up with speed, which is what I saw, but at a distance that would be less elevation,
Yeah.
it's
I
not going to
would
track right.
I would run my rifle that alongside the AI and see if the barrels and see if mine's doing what yours is doing, because that's another variable. Is it the barrel? You know what I mean? Everything in ELR is so particular, mostly the bullet. So if that barrel has stress or flex in it a little different with the temperature change more than another one, because that's your shift, right?
Mhm.
That you're talking about. That's your little bitty movements that are happening. And then if we take the second rifle, shoot alongside it and see if it does the same thing.
Right. And what's interesting about that, and I didn't think about that, is, with the AI, the ASXR, I basically like hand tighten the barrel and I just tighten the nut. Um, that
You know
might
what?
justify
You
getting
know what
to a
Mark
torque
does
spec.
on his? Mark shoots the AI and he shoots a 6.5 by 47 and he's anal retentive, but one load, one power, he does one thing. It all has to be perfect. And then he moves on. He puts a wrench on the flats. He hits it once with a rubber mallet. And he swears it does better.
Yeah. And if that's the case, and we can do that and do the temperature test and show that there isn't a
Mm-hmm.
shift, if there is at all. I mean, I saw a shift. I saw it with temperature. It correlated with velocity. But can we repeat it? Because we're going to have to repeat it, or it's like,
Yeah,
well,
well, I
that
mean, the
that doesn't
temps are
explain
so
it. But
great. Right now, like this week, and even maybe when the students come, we could play with a little bit of it. But the temps are coolish in the morning and going up to almost 90 in the afternoon. And then we've had the afternoon storm just came by and cooled everything off again. So it resets the day really well. You know what I mean? That lingering
Mhm.
heat isn't, it's not 80 degrees at 10 o'clock at night because the storms come through and knock it down to 75 from the 90,
Right, right. And
So
that
it's a,
natural increase in temperature would be a good thing rather than like, having it in a car at 80. But, either way, I want to try to figure out, in a session to get those temperatures to see if there is a shift. And I won't take the barrel
I,
off
and,
for
you
that
know,
reason. And then afterwards, we could tighten it more and see if it changes anything.
one of the
I'm gonna
things
write that down.
I saw when I did the XLR at gun site with AI, Snow was with me, Beck Strand, Scott, and all of us went with the ASRs to gun site. And I noticed because I was running the Hornaday and the Applied Ballistics Kestrels alongside each other. And here we are in Arizona, same problem with the sun. I ended up stowing my Kestrels and completely keeping them out of the sun because any variation from it sitting out was changing the dope in the Kestrel. Where if I basically shield it, then spun it, I was getting rock solid hits. Where when it was just in my kit and even a sliver of sunlight went across one or both of them, my numbers are wrong. And so that's where I noticed because we had those 3-4 days at gun site, with government ammo and borrowed guns. It's it's I was shooting a ton, so I got to see that my Kestrel was also a contributor to a problem in the heat being Arizona.
Oh, for sure. I mean, even just holding it, you can see the temperature change.
Mhm.
Sometimes if it's in the direct sun or in your shadow. And at those distances, every little thing matters. Like if you're
Yeah.
shooting east and then west, like you've got elevation shift. If you are shooting, I mean, the biggest angle that I measured was about 10 degrees, but 4 degrees is about where you have to be entering that degree shift at these distances. Like,
Which normally
and
10 degrees, we like, and we'll
mm,
see like some of the flatter cartridges, the 6 mils, I'll see a 6 to 8, degree. It starts to play because like we have Paula. You went to Paula. Paula's got
mhm.
17 degrees to the top, isn't it? Like, is it 17 or um is it 12 at Paula and is a Mifflin set?
I didn't remember that.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, I
I
didn't
think
measure it
Paula is
because we were just
17
shooting.
and Mifflin is 12. So we do classes at both. And generally, like 308 wise, 10 degrees, you're going to start looking at your angle. The 6 mils and stuff, it's like more 6 to 8. And now in ELR, you're looking at 4, so it's
Mhm.
constantly notching down where this
Yeah,
stuff
and
comes into
it would
play.
add a tenth, or yeah, it would take a tenth off right around 4 degrees, and then 2 tenths right around five, and it depends on the distance, but these targets, they're not big. Like, some of them were 3 tenths, some of them were 2 tenths wide, or 2 or 3 tenths wide. I mean, there were some small targets that and they say like, oh, those ones are really close. Yeah, like 890 yards is really
Hmm.
close, but to have like a 2 tenth wide target, but even at 2,000 yards, there were 5 tenths. So if you're aiming at the center of that, you've got 2 tenths budget, 2.5 tenths, but you figure that the shooter is going to take a tenth or tenth and a half out of that. So you basically have a tenth of some kind of error, or you're going to go over or under, not to mention wind. But I didn't miss that many wind shots. Um, it was almost all elevation, or I just shot the wrong target because I was so frustrated that I just started making mental mistakes. I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And it just kept happening because I'm obsessing over the numbers and not thinking about the course of fire anymore. And I feel proud
And
of
that's the
my
problem
ability to
when we
index.
that's the problem with us when we like Finnegan everything, because then the
Hmm.
little things start to get in your head, and it does create a weird match experience because normally when we're shooting, it's in that training mindset or it's to diagnose something or we're looking to create that that sort of pipeline for what we're doing. This goes to here to here to here. So it's always like, okay, wait a minute. Let's go back and look at that. And then you go to the comp like that and you can't go back and look at that. And the next thing you know, it's
Yeah,
we're
just
over
little.
analyzing and overdoing it, and it's turning into a silliness that shouldn't be when we should just send the round and call it good.
Right. But I'm going to keep going to comp so that I can iron and dust that off and keep thinking critically. But that's a rusty thing, because when I coach guys, man, we can come up with great ways for them not to make mental mistakes. But then they practice it till they're good. They go to matches. But I'm just like, oh, fuck, I gotta go, and I'll be there in 5 days. I'm worried about data, get the data, go, and then of course I make mental mistakes because something gets screwed up. And but we got a lot happening now, so that should clean up a little bit. Next week, I guess, like this coming weekend, I'll be there. We've got the clinic, the wind clinic. If anybody wants to come Saturday the 14th, we got a wind clinic out at Fort Morgan that day. But then the next weekend is Burris, and then the next weekend is the Hunter match in New Mexico. So all
Yeah, you got
different
a busy
styles.
schedule. Yeah.
But it's
Mhm.
good because it gives us stuff to talk about. It gives us content, and it we see things and what people are doing, and we interact with folks and talk. Like Jon Snow was there, and he's always fun to see because, like, he's just so nice and happy, and he has that loud voice, and it's
Mhm.
like, when he says something, it's like, oh, you want to listen, he knows what he's doing. And they did awesome. They shot teams, and just there's a lot of just good, happy people. Tim Milkovich was there, and he's always psyched. And um
Yeah, I saw your
um
picture on Twitter X there with Joel, from
Joel
Precision
Weiss was
Rifle.
there
Yeah,
taking pictures. And I had to apologize to him because he came up to say hi, and like I had been on deck, but the shooter was done and cleaning up, and I hadn't even loaded my magazine, and I'm loading my magazine, and he's like, "Hey man, how's it going?" I'm like, "I'm supposed to be shooting right now. Like, I'll talk to you later." He's like, "No, okay." I'm like, "Fuck, I feel like
Yeah.
a jerk, you know." But on the other hand, it's like shit. I'm holding it up, and there weren't that many backups. There was a couple, but I certainly didn't want to be the backup. Um, Gosh, it's already 7. I want to talk about two things. One, this clinic. Two, the wind class, the craft wind. People are getting into it and doing really good, but that's available. There's going to be more classes coming out. I'm gonna be doing in-person clinics, but the craft wind, I mean, you just got to take my word for it, but the craft wind was a good thing.
There.
And you go to the hide.tv. Um, but we're going to do an experiment. Frank knows about this. I talked about it last time. I talked to a parent and one of the kids that we're going to do, but we're going to take 5 kids, high school kids that don't shoot, right? They don't shoot at all. And I'm going to teach them craft wind. And like a video game, they're going to stand there with
But you gotta tell them
binoculars.
what club they're from, like, because you're not just taking
Oh,
5 random kids. They're
well,
in a
they're good at
club.
patterns. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're competitive Rubik's cubers. So they're really good at patterns and thinking about those patterns. And I thought, well, they're going to pick up craft wind easy. And I do tell people like you can learn craft wind and not shoot at all. You just have to shoot to validate it. But that sounds weird to people, and people make those comments like, "Oh, you just need to go get 100 rounds and
Well,
shoot in the
yeah, well,
wind."
and that
And
came up,
like,
so I wanna jump in really quick because this came up. So we're at the meet and greet and we're at the table and we're going to say, "Hey, what are we doing tomorrow? What are we doing this?" And I said, "Well, we're going to do this, this and that. And then I'm going to have you guys do the craft wind." And then the only kind of thing that Mark knows about craft wind is what James had told him the one time he came down in the winter when you did the like hour on just the cone of fire and the wind. Like like if we go back to those videos, I have the video split up in 3 segments. You did like 20-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute on those 3
uh-huh,
that you did with James. Well, since
yeah,
that time, I mean that was, last year. Since that time, it's been boiled and fixed. Not fixed, but simplified. And so he was like, "Oh, you guys are going to get a lot of numbers and not understand a single one of them." And I said, "No, no, 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 no. Don't listen to Mark. You don't know." And so that morning, now at Sure Shot, there's all
screw
the
you,
farm.
Mark.
Yeah, fuck you. No, and at Sure Shot in the morning, or there's all that farm stuff. So there's the silos, there's 5 tin sheds that block the wind. So I get up in the morning or get to the range in the morning. I go out and I'm doping the wind downrange by the 100-yard berm. So I doped everything. I put the whiteboard up and I put all the stuff on the whiteboard. I sent you a picture of it.
Hmm.
Um, I averaged the wind for him. I made it easy. I gave him the effective wind I figured out. So I read this, I effective that, this effective wind over your gun number, your percent of distance. Here you go. And I'm calling these guys. And like the first day, we had a kid, he shot really good, Joe, and he's using a Sig Cross shorty one, 308. He was shooting one 185s and he was just in the 2500, like 2525, somewhere in there, 25. He might even been 2560-ish, 2575, but it was a better number than I would have given the Sig Cross shooting a 185. So, of course, the first day I'm helping them with their win and I call everybody because I just call it the first day. And we're going through and we switched the direction. And it was sort of like I told you the first day, the angle was down. So we weren't holding too hard the first day with the effective wind. It was like 6 to 9 and not the 12 to 14 we were reading it. So we had a change of some kind. And I kind of went to him and I'm like, numbers in my head. I'm like 1-2. He goes and center punches on 1-2. He's like, "What the fuck, dude?" He's all over it. And he goes, "Where did you come up with that number?" I said, "Dude, it's the math. I'm not coming up with anything any different than I gave you." I said, "I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm only using the yard lines to tighten me up as we go down. I see where you impact. I know the number in my head because I'm using it. I'm talking to you, so I know what everybody's initial calls are. Hey, what are you doing? I'm gonna do point 0.5. Okay, maybe try point 0.8 instead. That kind of stuff." And so I'm seeing it, and I'm able to make my calls better and better for each guy I call with because we're able to tighten it up as we go. And then I just kind of go, that's 1.5 the distance. And a lot of it was 1.25, 1.5 the distance in that 8 to 9 mile an hour zone with a 6.5s that most of them were shooting. We only had two 308s in the class. And one was the Sig Cross, and the other was a 20-inch Daniel Defense. So two short 308s, and they did really. Oh, and the Scar was a 308.
Dude, you
Um,
had a Scar shooting 1,000 yards and hitting
I
steel. Like the wind
I
is
know
working. That's like a
it's
two
work.
mile an hour gun at that point. Like,
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, it was it was a ton of, but the math is solid, and
Mhm.
once it's in your head and you start, like Chris is saying, once the numbers unveil the pattern's obvious,
Right. It's like
right?
the Matrix. Like you can't
Yeah,
unsee it.
right, right. It's now
Right.
you right. You never not see it in each new yard line. You're actually getting better. And I even explained to him. I said, "Listen, guys, if I tell you we're doping the wind for 6 mile an hour, we're 1-to-1 here. For you guys with a 6 mile an hour gun, you're 1-to-1. And so your yard line is your distance." That was like on Friday. We did a couple steals on Friday after because they zeroed up at 100 really easy. The guys were no
Mhm.
drama. And so I jumped out to some steel and the wind was light on Friday. And it was 1-to-1. And I'm like, your yard line is your wind hold. And it,
Mhm.
like I said, if it's not, and you're holding point 0.8 instead of point 0.6, that's telling you you're in an 8 mile an hour wind. Redo
Mhm.
your numbers because the 10th in the where we were, the mill is the wind speed.
Right.
So if it's
Right.
changing for you, that's the changing wind and stay with it. Then we got the
Right.
two times your distance. That was on Sunday. Double your distance, guys. Hey, double your distance. And on Sunday, how easy is that? Hey, guys, double your distance. There you go.
Right. And you don't need to write anything down. And your wind call gets better every time you shoot, and you get faster and clearer. So to circle it back to the kids, we've got this group of kids who like patterns and games. I'm going to teach them craft wind, having never touched a rifle. When they're comfortable making those calculations, we're going to match them up with a good shooter, and they're going to compete against each other by giving their shooter a wind call. And we're going to take shots like a little competition for them and show that you can learn to read the wind without having ever shot. Like a video game, they're going to have this avatar shooter shooting,
Nice.
and we're going to film it, and we're going to, make a nice little video because how cool is that? You got these boys who are psyched. We got these avatar shooters all together, and they can compete against each other based on their ability to call wind. And we can give them a dope card for elevation if we want them to say dial this, hold this. But what I want to do is demonstrate that if of course I believe it's going to work because you don't have to shoot to learn it. But then these kids could go out and the very first time out with their avatar shooters, we can measure their hit percentage, we can measure the deviation, and we're going to make sure that they're good shooters so we could rule out the shooter error. And it'll be freaking awesome, right?
Yeah,
Like what a cool
yeah.
video. And then afterwards, we could have them all shoot, and we could teach them and show them guns, and safely, and have it be fun. But like, what a cool opportunity to say, because if we go out on the street and find a random person that's never shot, well, they might be able to call the wind, but they might not have the fundamentals to hit the target anyway. But this allows us to say, this is the wind. They made the wind call.
Right.
This is what happened. And I think that'll be a testament to how good the craft wind system is, and how relatively easy it is to pick up. But at first, you got to get through those numbers. And if you just put your foot down and say, no, I gotta,
We simplified
do
it.
it.
We rendered it down because I mean initially you want to talk more. It's like this, right? You want to
Mhm.
say every little nuanced thing. But that confuses people or kind of back and forth. But we have boiled it down into such an easy little thing. And it is so simplistic in its math that once that process is kind of put into somebody, it very shortly clicks.
Right, right. And that's why, like, when we put the class up, and I was like, oh, let's make it $300. And I was like, dude, that's a steal, because they're literally it's gonna solve their wind problems forever. And you're like, well, let's make it 199. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like,
Yeah, yeah.
this is literally wind. Like, it's gonna answer the wind problems for,
Well, I'd
however.
rather you
And
have
then,
20 people in the
yeah,
class instead of 10 who can afford it.
totally, totally. But it's like, holy shit, like, dude, $200, people are going to miss almost that many dollars of rounds making bad win calls at matches. Like, they're literally
Yeah.
going to save that money back instantly. But it's fucking awesome. And once people catch on, I think it's going to be a no-brainer. It helps us in classes, because then we can start talking that. Because the truth is, shooter error is the real factor. And people need to see that as that cone of fire goes, you got to work on your trigger press. You got to work on your fundamentals. You got to work on your follow through. You got to see the shots, and I can't wait until we can talk about the thing that we're developing, that we shot the other day, and we realized, oh my God, I watched the freaking bullet hit the
I
plate.
break. You watch the copper come off the jacket, hit the steel, and reflect in the sun. You're like, it's like, I was
And
like,
people are on, the other
it
podcast saying, you got to be able to see your bullet impact the plate, and it takes all this practice. And we literally just accidentally were like, holy shit. So when that
honestly,
when
that
that
tool when it if it like it's next level and it's so easy. But I'm like, I so wanted you to hurry up and come out with it, so that way there we could start using it in public because it
Yeah,
sucks
well, there's
because it is that
the
good.
next prototype is being sent. I got a text last night saying it's coming. So we're gonna have a couple of them to screw with, because, like, I mean, it's kind of like both Frank and I's eyes were like, oh my God. I'm like, Frank, come here, you got to shoot this. Like, tell me what you see. I didn't say anything, and you were like, oh my God, I just watched the bullet hit the plate. I'm like, I did too, but but the scope move. It doesn't matter, because I just watched the bullet hit the plate. Like, oh my God. Yeah.
Speaking
So
of that,
that'll
I'm
be fucking
actually
awesome.
I don't like that cantilever. The bitch is I have that Burris in the cantilever to get the 2 inch, the 1.8 or 2 inch. I'm at 1.9 with that scope. I ordered another shorter riser. I'm gonna end up putting a riser and then Burris's rings because they gave me rings for those Burris scopes, but they gave me
Hmm.
1 inch rings, really lows. And so
Yeah.
I ordered a half-inch riser or so, or 3/4. I ordered one of those Monstrum risers, and I'm gonna end up using their rings to try to keep the scope a little different than that LVP or LPVO. I always want to go
Hmm.
LVPO instead of
Dude,
LPVO.
that burst scope is fucking awesome
I'm
though. Like,
psyched.
I
You know
want it
what?
to sync up, because
The
it's
more I
like,
use that thing and the more I play with it and think about it, I mean, I'm a Revit fan. This kind of takes the Revic to a new level because the Revic still has clicks, and this thing is
Hmm.
clickless, and it can go to 1/8 adjustment. It's basically phantom adjustments. It's whatever you need them to be in the moment. And, in the yard lines and all that. I mean, think about it. Tap with your laser, 350, 450, 550, 350, 450, 550. You don't have to know anything.
You know what? Like, I'm a fan of Burris. That scope is cool as shit. Like, I can't wait to play with it. But everybody was having problems at this ELR match ranging. Like, lots of binos, lasers, and the Burris one was the one that was hitting it the most. Like when they were in my squad, there was one close enough where everybody would ask the dude, like, "What'd you get?"
Oh, really? I
You're
mean,
ranging
nobody
these
is
little
using it.
targets because
I
they're
should have
bladed.
gave you my Vectronics, dude. I got the 25
Well,
Charlie, but
but like some of them are bladed and small, so like point 0.3, but like turned at an angle
yeah.
so the laser's not bouncing right, and then there's some defilade so you
Yeah,
can't
but
see
that
the
that
T-post.
25 Charlie doesn't care, man. That's a $10,000. It's a $10,000
Yeah.
laser. It's a 1550. It goes to 10,000 meters, and it has a tiny etched reticle, so you're not using a LED or donut. You put the etched on it, it gets everything. I honestly, I have it. I never ever use it. I use the Terrapin. And
Hmm.
and in fact, Vectronics just sent Laura her Vector X's this week. We got in yesterday, they came. So she's got Vector X binos now. We'll have to check hers because
Yeah, we'll
those,
put like some 3/10 bladed a little bit, like not so
yeah,
that they're
yeah.
ridiculous, but just so that it's not perpendicular. But I was surprised, like the Burris binos for the price, I think they're like $700.
Well, you know
Like,
what? They probably copied the Steiners because Burris and Steiner are together. The like going from Vectronics, the next ones that are really good are the Steiner military binos. There's no
mhm,
Bluetooth in them though. You have to connect a module to Bluetooth because they're military. They don't
mm,
want to beam a signal out. I A
right,
bunch of people come to Fort Morgan with those Steiners because we got Steiner in our backyard. They're friggin' amazing. Before I Randy had the 25 Charlies. He gave me the Randy Price, but I had said to Sky Layton, I think I'm gonna get your Burris or the Steiner binos because from my experience, those binos are some of the best I've seen to hit everything. And so I
right,
can
right.
almost
But they're
see
like
them.
$12,000 or something. I mean, that's not something that people are just gonna be like, "Wow, I'm gonna
Yeah,
go
there's an
get
8
those."
by 30 pair that were like 8,000. And like I said, there's no Bluetooth to them, so was one of the reasons I didn't get them. But think about it: if that company has access to each other like they do, now the technology, the multi pulses and stuff, you start to incorporate in the commercial version, and they
Yeah.
win.
It'd be fun to get Sky and interview him just because he's so nice and like he's always at matches, happy and helpful and ROing and
Hmm.
stuff. Like he'd be interesting to hear somebody that's just a straight talker just say, look, this
Yeah,
stuff works. Like,
I've been to the
you know,
factory in Greeley. I've been there and seen the Burris Steiner factory and the different things. I mean, they were improving it when I went and getting clean rooms and new stuff they were adding, but it's not far away. It's right there in Greeley. It's easy. It's you. Matter of fact, you can go up 52 and cut over, and you're right there.
and they have their own range too. Would be fun to get some footage at their range.
I've been to their range. Their range isn't great. It's just like uh Sportsman. It's near
Oh, oh,
it's across the street from Sportsman's almost. It's
oh.
off that 14. It's over there.
Well, maybe we could just do a Pawnee match and do some testing at the Pawnee match, just some
Mhm.
random like screwball, like, hey, let's go shoot 9 millimeters at long range or something. Um,
Yeah, no, for sure we could do that. I
I
have
think because that's just a good experiment to be able to go and do something like that, like we did before. Like I'm gonna shoot my 223 gas gun.
yeah, we all
Um,
did. I mean, Hell, I came in ninth with a 223 there before everybody got good.
Yeah. Yeah, but going and just doing some kind of random experiment would be fun, and there's got to, it's once a month, so there's got to be one coming up in the next,
Yeah, it's
month.
first weekend, isn't
Um,
it? First weekend of the
I also
month.
saw, Chris Davis that commented, made a post about a locate range and engage field match. I don't know what the date is, but there's a match up in just west of Laramie
You
coming
know
up
where
that might
there's
be fun.
matches now? Larkspur. Straight down 25 to Larkspur. Pikes Peak Precision moved closer to us. So, that
Yeah,
the
that's a
guys
lot
from
closer. That's like an
yes,
hour closer.
right, the guys from Hawkins, that what is his name? DeSchmidt.
Yeah, they're all good shooters.
Yes, they run.
Nick Depperschmidt, yeah.
Yes, Nick Depperschmidt. Um,
Yeah,
he
they're
run.
good shooters, and they do a lot of matches, so I bet they're awesome.
Pikes Peak Precision is in Larkspur now, super close to us, and he's the one who runs it. And they do have a kind of every other month or almost monthly that they do in Larkspur now.
We should go to that. Yeah, because I
Yeah,
bet those are really, really fun to do, and those guys are good shooters. And Hawkins is who I've been trying to talk to about the raised rings, and people message
we
me from
need
time to time
straight
because I
ones
made a
and not.
list.
Yeah, we need straight and not cantilevered.
But they make so much stuff that getting in the queue is difficult. So that was the problem. And then I've reached out and not heard back recently, but like it's just trying to find a manufacturing date. So when people message me, what's the update? What's the update? That
Oh,
it just that
Chris
there isn't
just
an update
posted.
yet.
It's Fat Boy Team Challenge, August 2nd and 3rd, Saratoga, Wyoming.
Yeah,
And then
Saratoga's like just west of Laramie, so it's not that far.
and
And
then
I'm like, I feel fat, but I'm not very
oh, are
fat.
they
But I
doing the
think that would
Fat
be fun.
Boy at Alex's place? Is that Alex's, Chris? That new place Alex has that area that's slightly east of Cheyenne? Is that his place they're doing it at? Is he
It's not
Saratoga?
east of Cheyenne. It's west of Laramie, like by what's that, like Elk
You know, because that
Mountain
guy keeps
or
texting me, we need to go up to Wyoming to that place I told you. Neither one of us
Mhm.
have been in the same place at the same time. There's that new place that's 2 hours from here, and he's trying to start a matchup um right over the border. He has that property, he has the cabins, he has all the stuff, and you could
Oh,
stay
right.
there on the property. But this is
That's
and
awesome.
then he's
And
saying,
Sam Carlson also has his thing. Uh, and then another, I got the guy reached out from,
and then
um,
Dorgan, July 6th. We'll be gone. We have to go to Alaska. Where's
uh,
Dorgan? Is he having
what
it
the,
at his place? Because you talk to
I don't
Dorgan
know.
all the time.
I haven't asked him about, I haven't asked him about his match. Um, I could ask him, but what was DMR, that place in Idaho. I guess the guy that owns it was at Night Force, and the guy that reached out to me was at Night Force, and the timing didn't work to meet and talk about him. But apparently, it's
His
a
place. Okay.
facility that we could do courses at. But you should Google DMR Idaho
I think I've heard of it.
shooting facility, but it doesn't actually look that expensive, but it does look like a nice resort with good landmarks. So we should get the guy on the phone and figure out whether it's realistic and it's not going to outprice people. But it's got bunks and cabins and meals. It could be a pretty cool class, especially if it was like a summit type course that was several days,
Mm-hmm.
and we could in advance prepare different courses um, to be shot. But anyway, all right, it's we're over time, although there's shit ton of people.
Yeah, yeah. We got
Um,
like 100 and
are
something
there
people.
any questions to tie up? I
No, they're just
interrupted
talking.
you.
I'm talking to the local guys, Chris, and then I don't know who Junior is. If he's some got it because it looks like it's a different name, but Junior
Well,
there.
Chris is awesome. He's a
Yeah.
Wyoming guy that is basically everywhere, and um, if he's doing something, it'll be worth doing. So
Yeah.
that's
No,
good
but we can we
information to
can we
know.
can
And somehow
bounce
we
though. It's
gotta.
been. 'Cause
Yeah.
you're in another state. Chris isn't even here. He's, like, remote. Are you in a hotel or are you in a house?
I'm in an apartment.
Mm.
Yeah. You can look around, see.
I like the windows, though, because it looks good with your background like that, with the window out. Because you can
Yeah.
almost see out the curtain thing, but not and that's a good look, actually, kinda just chilling, but, yeah,
Yeah. Well, I took this apartment as a Overwatch, and these are my
Mhm,
screens.
mhm,
And
mhm. Well, and speaking of
you
which,
know,
I was gonna kinda start off, your friends might be getting scrappy with my friends, not my friends, but people I went and visited back in the '80s. They might get
hmm
their breakfast interrupted again like I interrupted their breakfast.
yeah, totally. Well, they
Mhm.
just interrupted their fishing trip, their little selfie trip, which
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that got yes, the fishing trip got interrupted, but I'm thinking, like, there might be a big interruption tonight, they keep saying.
some barbecue.
Yeah, there might be barbecue going, but, oh, have you seen the Bigfoot or Stormtrooper AI vlogs that are on X?
No,
Oh, dude,
but I will.
you gotta look up the Stormtrooper Greg, and it's
Okay.
like AI is making videos for people. You know, you can go in and make your own video and pictures with AI. So people have figured out how to
Stormtrooper
do
Greg.
so yeah, Stormtrooper Greg. So look up the Stormtrooper vlog and then look up Bigfoot's vlog too. Like Bigfoot went to the LA riots and and then the vlog guy, the stormtroopers are, shooting and doing crazy shit. And then like fucking with Darth Vader. It's like AI is so good in some of these places that it's
So
crazy.
is that where the Colorado video came from, or was that really Bigfoot, or is
No,
it
that
Greg's
Colorado
Bigfoot?
video is its own thing. I want to go out there and just hang out for a couple 2 days because that's two times now in that area of Colorado. There's been what
hmm
I would consider decent video. Now,
hmm
don't get me wrong, it could absolutely be some dude in a suit far enough away you can't tell, and they're making viral videos that way. But that last one I thought was really good and kind of realistic. So, I mean,
It
you know
won't be
what?
long before somebody figures it out. We may as well get
Honestly,
there before that happens.
I I am of the opinion that the world ended in 2012 like the Mayan calendar said. It just takes a minute for the terrestrial cycle to catch up that we're done because there is too much freaking crazy shit going on. And then on top of that, you know what's been happening in England? Crop circles.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, like why are there crop circles now? And then like I don't know. I just think there's some weird shit. I almost feel there's got to be some merit in the inversion, the planetary inversion. Because if you think about it, like growing up, they had the solar system was on a flat, you know, sun in the middle, and then you had the rings coming out, and it's flat, right? That's our solar system model they used to show us. But really, we're kind of the sun is a big spark that got shot out of an explosion, and we're just like shrapnel spinning around it. So it makes sense that like every 40,000 years we flip upside down and shit fucks up. And I kind of have a feeling there might be some merit in that because now they're saying with all the LiDAR stuff, they find shit under the
hmm
ground. They're like, there's a building, there's a building, there's a building. They're covered in
hmm
mud, which lends to the flood theory. But
hmm
and now we're digging. Well, now these dudes are trying to say the Italians had that ground penetrating radar that's going super deep that says there's shit under the pyramids. I kind of buy it because the deeper we dig, the more we find. And so it makes sense that it flipped and inversioned. And like I watch a lot of the ancient alien archaeology, like the Graham Hancock guy. But stuff I'm looking at now is the rocks are melted. And they're like,
hmm
look, this is melted. This is melted rock. So what melted the rock, and why is this statue like melted ice cream in this part? And then the other thing I'm on the fence with now again is the megalithic walls with no seams or with no mortar. The Because I saw a curved wall, like
Mm.
megalithic. And I think they're melting and pouring the rock when they made those. How else did you make it to curve a rock?
I don't know.
Right. It's got a radius. I'm
Right.
like, they
Yeah.
curved a giant megalithic wall in a way that wasn't like, you can't have 40 feet of a wall with this radius curve. There's just not that many rocks that do that.
Right. Right. You
It's
need a
poured.
wand.
You need the wand. Your wand is the answer. So I kind of think something's up. Now, they keep saying 2027, 2029, we might be in trouble, but I have a feeling the world ended and it just takes a minute to get there and we're done. If
Well,
I'm
that's
the
a good
last Yeah, but if
note
I'm
to
the
end on.
last generation or, at least I hope I get to see it. Like I hope it
But
ends
the views
around
just went up by 30, so
Yeah,
people
I
like
hope
it.
I hope it ends around 2030 so I could at least see it and not like 2060 when I'm dead. I need it to happen like sooner than later. I don't
Because you
have
got
a
to appreciate it. Yeah,
Yes,
we got to appreciate
exactly.
it.
I want to be able
Mhm.
to go see. But no, I think there's
Exactly.
something weird going on. But anyway, hey everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being a part of the Everyday Sniper. Chris from Riflecraft, Frank over at the Hide, Low Light. Thanks everybody. Oh, dude, I think that was Benghazi. I never saw that show, that 13 hours, and I saw him de-escalate the
Yeah.
Africans with the Jumbo.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, I always do that with them." Cuz like when I was in Kenya and shit, I didn't realize they still kind of the mercenaries do that still.
Yep.
Yeah, so cool. But anyway, thanks for listening, thanks for sharing, thanks for being part of the Everyday Sniper guys. We'll talk to you all soon. We are out. Have fun out there. When do you get home, Chris?
There he is. Friday
Friday. All right. I'll talk to you then. Later.
morning. Yep.
All right.